a 7-year-old reading the first Harry Potter would be a 17-year-old, and that is not out of context for them.
Well, we're back on the air with our political segment, I guess. It's really kind of our goodbye segment because tonight is Percy Hugo's last night.
Sort of.
With ColbertRadio.com.
Sort of a political
segment. When he
segment.
comes back, he periodically may come back as a guest, but Percy is moving on to bigger and better things. Percy's getting his own show. He'll be doing a podcast for the Charleston Tea Party.
CharlestonTeaParty.org, yes.
Which means he's going to have a better chance at landing interviews than I would.
I have some lined up. Yes.
I bet you do.
Some interesting people.
Yeah, well, we're going to see if we can't beat you to some of them.
You should.
Anyway,
you should.
We'll see what we can do.
I definitely consider it friendly competition, if at all competition.
Well, Percy, this is your segment. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what you got to say?
I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't consider this a competing kind of thing. We're going after different audiences. His audience is much more
let the air out of his tires. I'll cover for it. Go ahead.
I wanted to write down what I wanted to say, but I decided that it would be a little more organic if it came from the heart to try and get through these points, and forgive me if I struggle with this a little bit. First of all, this week there's been a lot of statements about compromise, right? And the compromise is a big thing in politics, and the art of American politics is compromise and things like that. And I've always been against it in a lot of cases, not because I don't want the country to progress. I always want the country to have clear choices. And so when I espouse my political beliefs, it's not because I think the other side is full of idiots or they're mean-spirited. I think certainly there's plenty of stupidity on both sides and plenty of vitriol coming out of both sides of the political aisle. But I want to portray, I want to paint, as Ronald Reagan said, with bold colors, not soft pastels.
That's right.
I always want the American people to know that they have a choice. And I always want our politicians to have the sense of decency, of self, to be honest about the choice that the American people are facing. I don't begrudge Barack Obama what he's doing a lot, because he did say in his campaign, I want universal health care. I want expanded unions. I want a larger budget.
I want to spread the wealth.
I want to spread the wealth. He put it out in front of everybody.
He told everybody that's what he's going to do.
And it is our responsibility to vote for or against that as a referendum. And in many ways as a personality. That's kind of the whole popularity aspect of politics. I've chided the Republicans quite a bit for, getting on Rush Limbaugh for saying, I hope he fails. And then, none of the Democrats during George Bush's administration were sitting there going, yeah, go Georgie. They weren't willing for the death of the American soldier, like a lot of people on my side, unfortunately, accused them of plotting for America to lose. They certainly didn't want to hang the war on Barack Obama and have him be the guy who pulled
Jim
out
Clyburn saying, if we win this war, it's bad for us, was a really unfortunate thing to say.
It was an unfortunate thing to say because
it stoked those fires too.
It does stoke those fires, but not everything is politics, right? And this is coming from me. I'm very, very in tune with what's happening, or as much as I can be with my schedule. But life is not only about politics. Politics just influences so much of our life, and the people who follow politics tend to do it with a passion. And you can't put the politics ahead of the person. I watched with great pride and emotion 2 very liberal people at their mother's 90th birthday party. I watched a very liberal man say that the gift that he received from his mother was joy, courage, and faith. And that's true regardless of your stance of the aisle. And I watched another man who's a union boss say that my mother taught me to nurture. And that's what he feels he's doing. I don't know if he's a union boss. He works for a union, if I'm not mistaken. And one family has represented so much of the political spectrum to me. It's really very interesting, and yet they all love each other. In the end, they all share the same genetics, the same care for each other. And that is beyond party lines. I could have married a liberal if I fell in love with a liberal. I can't hate people for who they are based on their politics. And I hope, if there's anything that comes away from all this discussion that we're having and where we're going as a country right now, it's that we recognize that what's coming out of the person is still coming out of a human being. As much as I despise Keith Olbermann, I wish him the best. He has an audience. He puts out a product and people buy it. And I'm okay with that. I'm going to put out a product and hopefully someone else buys it. But that's the real trick about politics. It's not to sit there and compromise your beliefs so that things get done. It's the quality of what you get done. And it's the quality of what you end up with. Don't try to get your name on the side of a building because you realize this is the end of your political life. Don't try to get your name on a bill because there's nothing else that's come along with your name on it. Try to consider that you're trying to do something good for the American people based on the principles upon which you ran. It is a high charge. It's a very, very great commission for these people to follow, and it's difficult. But that's what I aspire to. I aspire to the day when somebody who runs as a liberal governs as a liberal, and when somebody who runs as a conservative governs as a conservative. And then we can critique, we can banter, we can bicker, we can fight, all we want. But it is out there for everyone to see, and it is available. I'm sick of mostly the secrecy and the compromise of value and principle. I'm okay with the compromise of, say, numbers. I'm okay with the compromise of, say,
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a compromise of numbers, yeah.
Right. I'm not okay with the compromise of values. I don't think a Republican...
You can compromise a value. You don't value it.
You don't value it, exactly. I don't think the Republicans standing up to keep the Bush-era tax rates was so that rich people can stay rich. But that is the way it is spun. Now, when you get into the economic decisions and things like that, that all trickles down. Trickles down. But I don't like that we demonize them for that. I don't like as much as we demonize Democrats for wanting universal health care strictly as a measure of power. Some people
I want universal health care.
Sure.
I want every person to have health care.
Right. Some people very deeply...
Don't you want everybody to have health care?
Yes.
Some people very strongly believe that a universal health care program from the government is a great solution and a great direction for this country. I disagree. And I'll point out why I disagree, and I'll listen to why you disagree with me. But it doesn't make you a bad person. And so, as much as I've ripped on certain people, I think I've been pretty clear in my political segments from the day we started that I'm ripping on them more for the way they deliver what they deliver than what they've actually said. In particular cases, Keith Olbermann, Chris Matthews. I've ripped on Nancy Pelosi for some of the things she said. It was more about the condescension. And it's certainly present on the Republican side as well. So that's the political thing. Stick to your values. Paint with bold colors. Don't be afraid of what you have to say, and say it with pride. Now on to the harder part of this.
So basically, I was okay to pick on Wearing How.
Oh yeah, Wearing How.
asked for it.
Wearing How was a jerk.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Now the hard part.
The hard part about this, I didn't realize I wanted to work in radio until much later in my life. I thought for many years that I wanted to get into a cockpit of a fighter jet and go fly and fight and be all Tom Cruise.
That's how I pictured you.
And that's what I thought of myself. That did not come to pass, as some things as happens in life. But I do know now with a certainty that my true calling was always to work in radio, no matter how much I tried to fill that mold of myself. But sometimes you can't fit yourself into a mold no matter how much you want it to be. Sometimes you can't make that happen. How much time do I have?
You got 1 minute.
Okay, then I'll make this quick. I want to thank Dickie Storm, Mark Coney, Sean Shillelagh, Drew Colbert,
bass player,
Lance Morrison, bass player, John Fisher, all the guests we've had in studio, Keith Blanford, and that guy he kept bringing in with him who we don't know his name.
That was Brian.
Brian, yeah. I want to thank everybody who's come on the show. I want to thank Brooke for being pretty much the consistent liberal voice and value on this show, because it has added a great deal to the discussion. And I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm not leaving Colbert Radio. I'm taking what Colbert Radio has done, and I'm going somewhere else with it, and hopefully it does bring success along with it. But I will always be grateful to you for this opportunity. I've been there since day one, and I'm very proud of my track record here. And still the only person to guest host the show.
That's right. Anyway, as host of the show, I just want to say, I like all fathers, like all members of the older generation, I just hope that I've been of some service to you.
Service, yes, absolutely.
And we all wish you good luck, Percy.
Thank you. Without this, I wouldn't have been given the opportunity that I have coming in.
Good luck, Percy. We're all looking forward. We're all going to be fans of your show, and let us know when it goes on the air. And that's it. That's our end of our second season of ColbertRadio.com. We'll pick up again somewhere towards mid to late January with the Crawl Awards. And so, good night. Snodgrass.
Good
no,
night.
we love you.
Love you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night from all of us. We'll see you next year on ColbertRadio.com.
We love you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.